My name is Dan Dorval, and I'm President and CEO of Dorval and Cherney Financial Advisors. I am an independent certified financial planner and author of my book, Financial Success for the Rest of Us, Reality-Based Financial Planning for Mainstream America.
Hi, my name is Leah Woodley. I'm an associate financial advisor with Dorval and Cherney Financial Advisors. Our conversations discuss what it means to do quality of life planning in all areas of your life.
And Roth conversions are a hot topic these days. They make headlines. Everyone thinks they need to do it. There are some people that say everyone should do Roth conversions, and there are some people that say it's being blown out of proportion. How do you decide whether a Roth conversion is appropriate or not?
Well, I can tell you in our meetings, we have lots of people bringing this up. And so they're hearing about it online or from friends and coworkers. And in most cases of the people that we're helping, they might still be working. They're making the most money that they may have ever made, if they're in their 50s or 60s and they're the latter part of their career. And they're talking about trying to do major Roth conversions at their highest income level. And we're looking at it going, okay, that's exactly the wrong time to do it. This is one of those things where you really need to be intentional. And this is where planning comes into place. So, thinking about your future, how are you going to use this money? What is it going to be for? And then you start looking at like laying out a timeline and going, okay, there might be times where your income is somewhat lower than other times. So you might have retired, maybe you haven't claimed Social Security yet. We might have a window where we can do Roth conversions at relatively low tax brackets or lower than what you were paying when you were working. And then over time, maybe eventually you turn on your Social Securities, maybe eventually you have required minimum distributions. Your tax bracket might go back up again. So these are really challenging and nuanced topics like Roth conversions where planning is the actual answer. It's not just do this thing just because you can. It doesn't mean that you should.
Yes, absolutely. There's not a one size fits all with this situation, and absolutely need to be intentional, like you mentioned. You recently met with someone and you proposed a pretty unique strategy with a donor advised fund and Roth conversions. Do you want to talk about that?
Well, this particular couple, first off, was in very good shape for their retirement. So we always start with, are you in good shape for your own retirement? And they are. And they both had worked for a public company at one time. So they had a bunch of stock from their employer. That stock was highly appreciated. So it had gone up substantially over their careers. And they didn't know what to do with it. And they also had accumulated sizable IRA accounts, and they really didn't need a lot of that money for them to maintain quality of life. So a lot of this money is ultimately going to go to their heirs. So what we did is we looked at all of these different puzzle pieces and we said, okay, let's combine some strategies to make this whole thing make some sense. So one of the things is they are charitably inclined. So they believe in giving. We then set up a donor advised fund for them. They now can contribute appreciated stock to this donor advised fund. That means there's no taxes paid on any of this appreciated stock. The stock goes directly from their brokerage account right into the donor advised fund. The donor advised fund is a qualified charity, so it sells the stock and there are no taxes due. So the only one missing out here is the government. Then they get a write off for the amount that they contributed to the donor advised fund. That write off then goes over to their individual taxes, where we can now do a Roth conversion from their IRA, which creates taxable income. And then the donor advised fund contribution creates a deduction. We work on offsetting those two things. And so we're working on these strategies of getting some of their IRA money over to Roths at the same time as accomplishing charitable intent. And we're doing it at a very controlled type of tax approach. And then the Roth can grow tax free for the future. It's an unbelievable vehicle to leave to your heirs because it's income tax free to you. And then when you pass away, it's income tax free to your heirs.
Wow. So it sounds like that was kind of hitting on a bunch of different areas. It was kind of like a win-win situation. They were able to do what was valuable and meaningful to them, being able to donate to charity through the donor advised fund, as well as take advantage of some tax benefits there as well. So that was an awesome strategy. Now, obviously, that's not something that we would implement with every type of client. But like you said, they were in good financial position to be able to do so. Is there any other important considerations that you want to mention when it comes to Roth conversions?
Yeah, it's one of these things, like I said, that's been a buzzword lately, and so people are looking at it all the time. And one of the biggest assumptions people will make, so an advisor or an online type of source might say, "Oh yeah, but your tax rate's going to go up in the future." And we look at it and we go, "Well, how do you know that?" I mean, people can just assume that taxes are going to be higher in the future, but tax rates for most people, if you're talking about people making, hundreds of thousands of dollars a year and under, as compared to people making millions of dollars a year, nobody has really proposed raising taxes on those people. So we don't know what your tax rate's going to be in the future. Think in terms of what is the money for. If it's going to go to your heirs and you're not going to need it to maintain your own personal quality of life, we love the idea of getting that money over to Roths, especially if your children are financially successful on their own merits. They have good jobs. Maybe they would inherit that money while they're still working. Their tax rates might be high. So if they can inherit this money as tax-free money inside of a Roth, that can be very beneficial from like a family legacy type of planning as compared to leaving them maybe very large taxable accounts from an IRA, a regular IRA, and now they have to remove it within 10 years. They might get hit at some really high tax rates. So this is one of the most nuanced financial planning tactics that exists. And it is critically important that you start first with your own quality of life and aligning your resources with what matters to you. And then, if you have excess, then you start thinking in terms of how do we utilize these resources as efficiently as possible across more complex strategies.
Yes, thank you so much for explaining that to us. So, I appreciate all of the nuggets that you shared on this topic, and as well as you sharing that strategy that you went with through your clients. Is there any last things you would like to add?
I think like this donor advised fund, these clients had never considered that option. They just didn't really know how it worked. So they were going to do very large Roth conversions on their own, and they would have unnecessarily paid really high taxes. And then when they passed away, their intent was to leave some money to charity, but not very much. In this case, we showed them how to leverage some of their appreciated stock into a very meaningful amount of money for those future, contributions to charity. And the key is, if I put $100,000 of appreciated stock into a donor advised fund and I get to write that off, I can now create a legacy for my family to think in terms of giving, because I don't have to give that $100,000 to charity right away. It can be invested, it can continue to grow. We can now have family meetings and talk about, where do we think we can make the greatest difference from a charitable intent? So it can create those connections within your family, thinking about how to be generous together. And then even when you've passed away, now that donor advised fund transitions to your heirs, and they can talk and meet and consider how they want to give that money away.
I love that legacy component and going back to doing meaningful and intentional actions with your resources. So I love that. Thank you so much for all that you've shared about this topic. And until next time, have a great one.
Thanks, Leah.
Thank you.